Jimmy, it's great to talk to you. Great to be with you this morning. Jay Giles being out of Worcester, Massachusetts. I went to college with a young lady who was my roommate, no, not roommate, but lived in the second floor. I was on the third floor. And she used to sit in the cellar and watch Jay Giles practice. And the fact that they're not in the Hall of Fame makes everybody in the Rhode Island, Worcester, Mass area upset with their favorite song, Love Stinks. Jay Giles, and my last story of Jay Giles was they had an album called Full House, and I hadn't looked at it in a couple of years. It was one of the only albums I had. I brought up to college because my roommates had giant stereo systems. I pulled it out of the album. I pulled it out, and one of my brothers had cut a pie piece out of every song, so no one could play it. We threw it out the window. It was January when the snow melted. There it was on the front lawn at Bergen College. May still be there. But yeah, we love Jay Giles and the Rhode Island people. Yeah.
A little hypocrisy moving out of Atlanta, Georgia.
I just lost him. Sorry about that. I don't know. Hey, I just disconnected. Just put me on. I know what he's saying. Well, there's no justification for coming to Colorado and leaving Atlanta. As the top of the news, somebody just said, if it's all about trying to get black people not to vote, which it isn't, they're hurting black people in Atlanta, which is over 50% black, and coming to Colorado, which is 10% or 5% black. So none of this makes any sense at all. But nothing going on. There's nobody who's required to present any evidence on any issue going forward. So when it comes to Major League Baseball, and what, say, the head of Delta said, Delta Airlines, Coca-Cola, the question remains, Jimmy, two questions. Is anybody going to ask them why they're still operating out of Atlanta? I mean, why did their headquarters not move to Colorado? Is the governor of Colorado called and said, come here? We have more restrictive voting rights than you, but no one seems to notice we've got a big airport, come on over to Colorado. No one seems to be doing that. Why are Starbucks restaurants open in Atlanta, Georgia today? Does anybody know? I don't know. And let's ask the other question. If they don't like the voting rights of Georgia, do they like the ones in Communist China? Seems they love it. Joe Biden loves the ones in Communist China. He loves the Uyghurs. He hasn't brought up anything about that in a sense of doing anything about it. It looks like Delta Airlines any of those airlines are going to fly to Communist China as soon as they can. Starbucks is operating right out of Communist China. Apple Computer makes your computers right out of Communist China, right? Communist China. Concentration camps. I'm off the air again. Can you hear me, Jimmy? Oh, I'm there. So, okay. So all these things are just so inconsistent. But here's the problem, Jimmy. Nobody cares. So the thought process that anybody would go to a Major League Baseball game. I mean, maybe go to one. I'm not saying you shouldn't go, but the thought process that people who are conservative, who love baseball, continue to ignore what people are doing. I was on the phone with one of my great buddies yesterday. He was like, I can't believe anybody would go to the Major League Baseball game. I'm like, Jimmy, I didn't say to him, his name was Jim, his name was Roger. I haven't been to one of these games. I haven't been to an NBA basketball game, I don't know, one time, maybe 7 years ago. I haven't watched an NBA basketball game. Let me tell you, people have to change how they handle sports. Sports are all about the character of the people participating. I was reading the paper on Tuesday morning because the Coloradan reports things 2 days late, right? And Jordan Spieth, a nice Christian 27-year-old man, won a tournament for the first time in 4 years. His story for my kids, he has one wife, he takes care of a sister who has a mental problem, he has wonderful parents, and he competes in a way that is polite. He's gone through 4 years of trying to win, he can't win, he never changed his trainers. I point this out to my family. For example, when Mario Rivera retires from Major League Baseball, I never watch a Yankee game again. I grew up a Yankee fan. not to give your son's name on the air, but I watch your son's career progressing as something I'm proud to see because I'm proud of you. All the other stuff is nonsense. Like if you're just going to go drink brew at your home if you want. But no one needs to watch any of these sports until we, as conservatives, turn the channel, which I have done. I mean, I'm watching BritBox at night, a show called Father Brown. I don't watch any of this nonsense. I haven't turned on the TV. I only listen to you on the radio in the morning. So until we turn the channel away from this nonsense as conservatives, they'll keep doing it. If you're not getting a Delta flight, they will know. Because those people, by the way, who turn back and forth with the wind, which is what's happened to almost all the CEOs of America today, right? They just go with the wind. They don't realize that maybe they just don't realize that the people who run the Democratic Party don't care what they do. They're going to come after them anyway, right? Anyway, all the time. Doesn't matter what they say or do, they're eventually coming to them like Robespierre went for people during the French Revolution. It's going to happen, and they don't seem to know or care. Eventually they're going to come for their homes. And so they're just total, the lack of leadership in this country is so out of control that it's never been like this, not even pre-Civil War times, Jimmy.
The voice of Steve Laffey, his website, by the way, is stevelaffey.com, Laffey. Steve, you sent me over the link to Senate Bill 21-182. The people of Colorado kicked back on that thing. Kathy Kipp of Northern Colorado was a co-sponsor on it, and I think she hopefully got called out by her constituents for it, but it's a disastrous bill. Basically, anything in the public school would go, as long as it wasn't a felony. Kids could sexual assault, physical assault, bullying, drug possession, drug sales, alcohol consumption. Everything was okay as long as it didn't reach felonious levels. Even theft would be okay. Teachers, students, and everybody in danger got defeated in committee yesterday, Steve. But what does it tell you that we actually have people elected out of Northern Colorado like Kathy Kipp and people all over the state that actually co-sponsored this bill? And had they not gotten called out, they would have voted for it. What does that tell you about the state of Colorado?
Well, the state of Colorado is lost, and it seems as though people like it. So these people were called out and did stop just what you read. I'm reading the bill for the first time this morning after you go on the air, which is why you're so educational, Jimmy. And I'm just sitting here jaw-dropping again, but it brings up the other point. If you're listening today and you think your kids are going to do okay in the public schools while you and your husband or you and your wife or whatever significant other are out working and not paying attention, you're wrong. The number one reason for the giant growth and inequality of wealth is the public schools. It was the opposite when I went to school, right? It was the number one reason that kids could get ahead if they came from poor families or relatively poor families like mine, right? Was you could do it. Now it's the opposite. Really smart kids being held back, being made fun of, being bullied. Ask any black family in inner city when a kid tries to bring home a pre-calculus book and what happens to that kid. He's taunted and bullied. You got to get your kids out of it, in my opinion. And so it brings you to, again, for example, people can say whatever they want. And on that score, the head of J.P. Morgan, Jamie Dimon, one of the richest men in America, a billionaire, even though his stock has really done nothing for 15 years effectively, a billionaire over running a company that really has done nothing great for the country, is talking about inequality. And he talks about government, schools, media, and business. They must regain the trust. Not him, by the way. He's fine, right? And he says the underlying problem is inequality. And is, of course, in Algebra 1 means equal. He's not even understanding that they're causing the inequality, and he's giving a speech as a billionaire, right? As someone who was paid out a third of their income for criminal activity to the federal government, but he's never been put in jail. So he gets to say this because he does this woke thing, right, for the media. They ignore for now that he's a billionaire before they come for his assets. And it goes on and on and on. All throughout America, these leaders have learned to say this stuff because they think they can get out of office, get out of running J.P. Morgan, go on with their lives before the whole thing turns on them. My prediction, eventually it all turns on them because they represent the inequality of wealth and they've helped perpetuate it. Do you think the bank teller at J.P. Morgan makes anywhere near 100 times less? The J.P. Morgan CEO makes maybe, I don't know, I don't have it in front of me, 1 million times more per year than the average teller. He doesn't care. He just gets to say this because he does the woke stuff for the people. And this is what has to change for conservatives. Stop the Starbucks stuff. Stop showing up there and telling me to meet with you there. I'm like, no, I might get a glass of water. That's it.
The voice of Steve Laffey. His website is SteveLaffey.com. SteveLaffey.com. Steve, in the final couple of seconds that we have together, we're seeing states now starting to kick back. Florida, Missouri have said, hey, we're not going to do this vaccine passport thing. That's not constitutional. You're also seeing states going with the radical policies coming out of D.C. and the Biden administration, like Arkansas has decided they're going to ban transgender treatment if you're under 18. Other states are having to push back. We're watching an interesting phenomenon where a lot of states are pushing back against the overreach of a big federal government. Our Constitution all declares what the federal government's role should be. We've gone well past that. Of course, Colorado's one of the exceptions. We're surrounded by states that are starting to push back against Washington, and we seem to be hook, line, and sinker, ready to rock and roll and let Washington do anything they want or tell us what to do.
Yeah, I sent you a little article about Arkansas. At least the state legislature has bans transgender treatment for under 18-year-olds, right? At least the legislature. The governor, of course, thought it was okay for some reason. Asa Hutchinson, who's a Republican. But at least there's, I don't know, are 100 people who are ready to tell the rest of the world, we're not doing this to these kids. We've looked at it. We've seen how it leads to much more suicide and much more problems, and you're going to have to be 18 before you make the decisions. We don't care how bad your parents are. You can't do this to a minor, right? I mean, there's 100 people in America starting the trend, it looks like. 100 people. And so I look at that and go, wow, there might be some hope. But around the rest of the world, people are just putting up with it and on and on and on. And then you ask yourself about the question you're asking today. I said back in January, when Bloomberg said it would take 7 years, right, to get the vaccines done, I said this is over by June 1st, and probably April 1st, but June 1st. So to get directly at your question, if you don't want to get a vaccine, it's totally fine. So by the time everybody gets a vaccine, who wants one, everybody should just get on planes and go where they want. If you don't want to get it, why are you telling people you didn't want to get it? If you get it and you die, or you don't die, and you're 80 and you weigh 400 pounds, that's your problem now. It's, by the way, as I said at the beginning, it's totally your problem anyway, your family's problem. But now it's 100% your problem, and every state should act that way, Jimmy.
Responsibility, a lost concept. Steve, one more quick question for you. My poll question of the day is, if by chance to go to an event, let's say it wouldn't happen, the Cheyenne Frontier Days or the Greeley Stampede or the Pepsi Center or whatever ball arena, to go to an event, they said you have to have your papers to show you have the vaccine. How would that affect you? That's my poll question of the day. Yes, no problem. If I want to hop on a plane, I'll do it. Here's my passport, travel passport, my vaccine passport, or no way, or not quite sure.
Well, I'll have my vaccine just because my daughter has cancer, and I'm 59, although I weigh 172 pounds, but I don't have any health problems. So I'll have it. I guess I probably wouldn't put up with their complete nonsense. Now, again, I think I would have to when it comes to the feds, right? Because if I get on a plane and I need to say blah, 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 and I had to go somewhere, I think it's everybody's choice. I'm really sort of against the whole thing. I mean, I'm wholly against the whole thing, but if I had to go somewhere, Jimmy, I guess I might just say, hey, because I do have a little shot thing. I have it. I show other ID, like voting in Georgia. Just get an ID, folks.
Appreciate you, my friend. Thanks for hopping on the program. SteveLaffey.com.
Jimmy's a great guy. It is a tough question. I mean, if you have to go see your daughter for the first time and you haven't seen her in a year and you're a grandmother, what are you going to do? Not get on the plane? I mean, you're not going to deal with the feds and get arrested and fight with them if you're 80 years old. So, and this gets down to the whole basic thing. Everybody can make their own decisions. There are certain things I simply don't do, and my kids know this, and I won't do it and so forth. It's like we talked about earlier about, say, Starbucks. It just, what people get away with, and one thing just about Starbucks before I go, it is unbelievable that the group of people that pollute the ocean probably the most with their plastic cups is Starbucks. The group of people that are probably at least as responsible for the obesity problem in our country as anybody else would be Starbucks. They put things in the cups. I haven't been in there in years, but I know that you can get it, and it says like, this latte has 1,000 calories. Well, they seem no responsibility for what's happening to the country. The people go there seem to have no responsibility, and yet they've caused two of the biggest problems. By the way, the problem is not in the air. The problem is in the water. The pollution in the water is a big problem in the world, and we got to find a way to looking at companies that can hopefully solve this. That's one giant problem. And obesity, which affects at least 40% of Americans, is a giant problem. It causes leading causes like 17 cancers. I think Joe Biden's going to speak about it. Donald Trump was obese himself. He never spoke about it. God bless the guy. But we got to get skinnier. People got to stay in shape, or the country can't do anything. I mean, if 40% of the healthcare costs, I'll leave you with this one thought, went away with over the next 2 years because people lost weight, we would almost balance. I mean, say we would balance the budget, but it would be, if it's 18% going to 10% of GDP, it's a huge number. Now, who doesn't want that to happen? Not my doctor, but pretty much all the doctors, right? All the drug companies, they want you to be fat. They have TV commercials about how fat you are and take this pill. Of course, the disclaimers are about how it kills you, but they want you to be fat. And America can't compete. It certainly can't compete with the Marines. Marines can't even get people. The people they're getting aren't even being trained. We got a big problem. So it's got to be back to basics. But the number one thing is that conservatives just have to act like conservatives and not do things that are not conservative. Anyway, I got to go. Talk to you soon.